And welcome to another 2 hours of God-fearing, self-righteous pomposity, or is it self-righteous, God-fearing pomposity? Either way, I think it works pretty well for our program, and I thank you for being with us. We are now 6 days away from Election Day, which I described on our website yesterday, newsradio1310.com. In the talk radio business, and I guess in the news business as well, this happens to be the equivalent of the Super Bowl or the World Series or the Stanley Cup. You take a look at those things, and from our perspective, this is the big game that's coming up. I also was reading this morning before I went on air, all of within the last 20 minutes. There's a piece at Washington Examiner, which the Examiner is really run by a lot of people who work for the National Review. It's an alternative paper in Washington. It has nowhere near the readership of even the Washington Times, which is the other conservative alternative in that city. And combined, they don't equal what the liberal Washington Post puts together. But they have a story today, and they're actually pulling data from the Media Research Center. And the Media Research Center has been looking at what television news. Now, the newspapers already are in the tank for Hillary Clinton. That's fairly obvious. But they've been watching at the various levels of the Media Research Center what's on television, and television is actually covering this story the last several days as here's James Comey with this. With all of these details, he's throwing at Hillary Clinton's campaign instead of saying, hey, wait a minute. Hillary Clinton got herself in this mess. In other words, we've got to save our friend Hillary from that mean old Mr. Trump. And we know what's best for the rest of America because when we're not editing newspapers or doing newscasts on TV, we're not only out rescuing dogs from trees, cats probably more likely. Dogs do other things to trees, usually, all over your sidewalk and your lawn, and it's just a mess. They're also out there, as you know, all of your local news people, of course, do the same thing. They go out on weekends and they cure cancer and they build rocket ships and design new ones. And so they are the smartest people around. You have to listen to them when they give an endorsement or they try and pull various candidates, usually Democrats, always Democrats, let's be honest, across the finish line, which is what they're trying to do here. Don't vote for Donald Trump. He might actually change things in this country. And we like it falling apart just the way it is. I want to thank you for being with us this morning, 9 minutes after 8 o'clock. 33. We didn't get down to freezing just yet. Who knows? We might still get there. That was the predicted low. And we're looking for a high somewhere today, maybe only in the upper 40s, but it will warm up for a few days. And the long-range forecast shows Election Day next week to be quite pleasant. Not hot and sticky, but quite pleasant nonetheless. Those of us who've already voted, and we got chastised for criticizing early voting on the program yesterday, as you know. Look, I understand the arguments for it, but the argument that, people want to actually go into that physical booth, it's not really even a booth, it's a little cubicle, and actually cast a vote, it makes them feel better. If that's what's really important on Election Day, then you're probably a Democrat. Well, I'm saying that they may be unlike what they think. Of course, they think they're the smartest person in any room they walk into, but they may actually be 2 beers short of a six-pack or not the sharpest tool in the shed or the elevator isn't going to the top floor. After all, they are looking for government to take care of them because of their shortcomings. Over at MSDNC, which is essentially it's a Democrat National Committee network, so it is the Clinton network along with CNN. They are just beside themselves over the prospect that she could now win this election despite all of what they've done for her. All that they've done for her in the last couple of years, they're flummoxed by what's going on right now. And so one of the hosts there was talking to a black activist by the name of Leslie Wimes and was curious to know why the Clinton camp in all of this early voting isn't getting swarms of black people coming out and voting for her. Now, seems to me that's a little bit stereotypical, albeit, most black voters do vote for the Democrats. However, listen to the response from this Democrat black activist when she's posed this question.
Even though nearly 90% of those voters support Clinton over Trump, according to our latest NBC News Wall Street Journal Marist poll, she is still trailing where President Obama was with his coalition back in 2012. I want to talk about this, and with me now is Leslie Wimes, the president of the Democratic African American Women's Caucus. Leslie, thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Sure. So listen, you recently said, and you caught a little bit of heat for it, that the Clinton campaign was in panic mode over the lack of enthusiasm from black voters in Florida. So is she still in panic mode? And are you in panic mode about where she is with this particular demographic?
Well, when I said back in September that the enthusiasm level for African Americans as far as Hillary Clinton's campaign was not there, I was right and they were wrong. They didn't want anyone to know that they were in panic mode. And so I'm going to say now, I want everybody to know that I was right. If they don't want to admit that they were in panic mode, they really should admit it now. I said then that it wasn't too late, and Hallie, it is too late now.
So there's nothing she can do?
Oh, no. It's over now as far as the African American community is concerned. She had time back then to get into the community and get people out to vote. But now, you know, the numbers are the numbers. It's nothing that she can do now.
Goodness gracious, they'll be encouraging the few voters who are coming out then and telling them all to vote twice. Speaking of voter fraud and people doing that more than once, Boise Weekly has a story about that today saying, yes, there is evidence in Idaho in the last several election cycles, and they cite some cases, including some hairdresser from Ketchum. He listed some other job, but back in 2008, he claimed he was just confused, and that's why he not only voted in Blaine County, but he also voted in Twin Falls. I'm sorry, but I don't know how you could be that confused. But then again, he's a liberal and he's the smartest person in the room. I have this today. Remember when media went after Donald Trump when Trump said he saw Muslims cheering from rooftops when the 9/11 attacks took place? Media said, oh, it never happened. Donald Trump's making it up. Another one of Donald Trump's big lies. And our girl, she doesn't lie. We have all this evidence here and all of these. Oh, WikiLeaks. Oh. Pay no attention to WikiLeaks. It's controlled by Russia. And pay no attention to James Comey. He works for Russia, along with Trump. Yeah. So anyway, Trump said that, and he was totally wrong, even though it was later revealed there were TV newscasts that reported that these people were up on the rooftops, and they were cheering. Muslims from around the world living in that area were cheering as they watched the flames after the attacks on the Twin Towers. So Trump, if he saw it on TV, then he indirectly saw it. You know, I can watch a football game on TV or in person, but either way, I happen to see it. All right, this is from the Washington Examiner. Again, it's an alternative newspaper. So you realize if Trump said something like that, if Hillary Clinton made a similar claim, mainstream media would be right out there proving, of course, that she's just as much a bald-faced liar as they claim Donald Trump is, right? Well, no, actually, it's the Washington Examiner alone that's reporting this. Hillary Clinton claimed incorrectly, in other words, she was wrong or she lied, during an address Tuesday evening that she was in New York City on September 11th, 2001. But you're probably wondering, how come ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSDNC, the New York Times, Washington Post, and Seattle Post-Intelligencer didn't pick this up? Well, that is a legitimate question, I suppose. Clinton was in Washington, the reporter writes, on September, and that's Washington, D.C., not state, on September 11th, 2001. Congress was still in session. When transportation became available on September 12th, she traveled to New York to survey the damage with then-Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. Clinton later used her position as an Empire State Senator to secure benefits and aid for some of the victims of the 9/11 attacks. Of course, she wasn't alone in doing that. That pretty much was a given. No matter what state your legislators were from, they were all behind that. Giuliani went on to say, I heard her say that she was there that day. I was there. I don't remember seeing Hillary Clinton. That was like he said, when she said she had to run through gunfire. That turned out to be, what do we call it, a lie. So all of your friends over in liberal media ignoring that particular story today. Why would they be doing that? Well, again, I know that's a rhetorical question because once more, they are trying to drag their girl across the finish line because they want a constitutional crisis after she is impeached and the government falls to pieces. Because they don't like Donald Trump because he's a blunt-speaking guy and he might build the wall and he might tell the Chinese where they can go and they can... Did you see that too? The mainstream media is jumping all over this. Our good friends, the wonderful Chinese who would never tell a lie. Well, okay, despite stealing all of our technology and despite, invading our computer networks, and despite claiming that the Pacific Ocean is their private property and threatening us if we ever try to sail a ship through it, other than that, they're really good people. And you see, they're on board with this climate change treaty, don't you know? Even though they're still burning more coal than anybody else in the world, but they have to do that, you understand? Because, gee willikers, they've got to build their economy up. So they're on board with the climate change treaty, and now they're angry because Donald Trump may take us out of it. How dare he insult the wonderful Chinese? These are the same media types who are telling you, Donald Trump's in bed with Russia. We have no evidence, but Russia's influencing our election in favor of Donald Trump. In the meantime, the devious Chinese government comes out and says, hey, how dare Trump stand up to us? How dare he try and stop us from taking all of your jobs? How dare he try and stop us from turning you into a third world nation? And the media says, oh, good for China. And let's get rid of Donald Trump so we can appease the Chinese one more time. What a group of sick, twisted human beings these folks in mainstream media happen to be. And they are the most anti-American bunch you could ever find. And something after this election needs to be done about them. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, imagine having to listen to this over the next 4 or perhaps 8 years.
We're going to prove once and for all that love trumps hate. Thank you all. I am sick and tired of the negative, dark, divisive, dangerous vision and behavior of people who support Donald Trump.
Yes. Well, I can't say it on the radio. I'm sorry. But I had a few thoughts in mind, and I know even conservative women don't like it when you say certain things about, well, liberal women. And I know it's kind of stretches the whole idea of credulity when you put Hillary Clinton in that women category, but I won't go into any depth on that. Speaking of trouble, Donna Brazile, who I guess is now going to be stuck marketing, I don't know, pancakes. Anyway, CNN chief Jeff Zucker tore into former network contributor Donna Brazile during a conference call on Tuesday, calling the interim Democrat National Committee chair unethical and disgusting for leaking debate and town hall questions to the Clinton campaign. However, then CNN went on and said, we don't know how she got the questions because nobody here at the Clinton News Network would ever give the questions to her. No, it wouldn't happen. So the Daily Caller tracked down one of the women who actually asked Hillary the question about Flint, Michigan, and said, did you talk to Donna Brazile ahead of time? She said, not that I'm aware of. Well, then how would Donna Brazile have gotten this? She said, well, I did talk to a woman at CNN who called me ahead of time, and her name was Danelle. So now we know it was somebody inside CNN. So CNN, the people in charge there, are just as big of liars as Hillary Clinton and Donna Brazile. All right. Hey, Dr. Jonathan Tripp is going to be with us in about 15 minutes this morning talking about sleep deprivation and some of the ill effects that can cause. Right now it's 8:20 and it's 33 still at KLIX. I just happened to be listening to that commercial for the Dale Everson campaign. Of course, he's running for state legislature, and he would represent, portions of Blaine and Lincoln and Camas counties. I've known him for about a year, and I've really grown to like the man. He's just a super nice guy. He didn't get an endorsement, though. I saw he didn't get a newspaper endorsement. A newspaper went with his Democrat opponent. But as I understand it, as I read the thing, I was a little confused because it sounds as if they didn't endorse Dale because he goes to church. I kid you not. Apparently because he's not quiet about it. He goes to church, so we can't have him in the legislature. Well, we are at 32. We have hit the freezing point for the first time in I don't know how long, but we at our radio station, we just dropped down to 32, bounced back to 33. Dr. Jonathan Tripp will join us in a few minutes. Of course, Tripp Family Medicine is still looking for new patients. You can actually give them a call, and they'll get you on board. And oftentimes, if you need to see the doctor or one of his associates on the very same day that you call for an appointment, they can get you in. Tripp Family Medicine located on Fillmore Street directly across from the main post office here in Twin Falls. And remember, life's too short not to feel good. Telephone number for reaching our show, 736-0300, 736-0300, and you're on the air.
God, the hypocrisy of the media, huh? Just where do you and Sean Hannity live? Oh, you guys live right on the colon of Donald Trump.
Have you ever
Every
thought
day
that no
carrying his
one can
water, huh?
understand
Yeah,
anything
that's
you
what you
say?
do.
If
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
learn
You
English,
understand what I say, fat boy.
I don't understand what you say. It's all gibberish. It's all gibberish. You know, Vicente Fox will offer you a job if you come home and leave us alone. 825, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. By the way, since I've lost a tenth of my body weight, I'm just back to being all muscle again. So just pass that along. Well, you know, when I was a teenager, I was playing football. Do you know that my teammates used to get angry with me when we were in practice and I got the end spot on the blocking sled because I would spin the thing all the way around? There'd be three coaches, you know, and they'd be about 550 pounds on top of the thing, plus the weight of it. And I would hit it so hard and move it around and drive it that I would spin it in circles. So eventually, do you know what happened? My teammates came to me and said, look, we want you to get in the middle for a change. So it's not all fat. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on Top Story. Go ahead.
Oh, that guy, Bill, I tell you, just tell him Ungawa. He won't know
Oh,
what...
no. He's feeding at the public trough, and there's some fear among those people who are down there at your welfare office that they're going to lose their free lunch. That's what that comes down to.
Exactly. Just throw back to Ungawa because he don't know what that means either. I'll see you, Bill.
Thanks for the call. You're next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on Top Story on KLIX.
Hey, I just want to know, how does it feel to own that guy? Because you own that guy. He gets up in the morning and you're all he thinks about all day long.
That's a good question. I don't want to own anybody, but I do think that's wrong. On the other hand, they don't mind. Some of these people don't mind being slaves to the welfare state. That's the problem in this country is everybody still thinks when you're $20 trillion in debt, you can still have a free lunch. You're up next, and you're on KLIX. Go ahead. And I thank you. Must be he's calling back. Because that's the way his calls always sound at the very, very end. You know, there are foreign language talk shows, and if you want to be understood in life, I guess you should, well, just a recommendation. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX.
Hey, Bill, before you lose all that weight, please hit that guy as hard as you can.
I don't even know him. I don't even know this fellow. He adds a little color to the show. That's, nothing wrong with that. One more quick call, and then I got a couple of business things to take care of in just a moment. Coming up on 828, you're up next on KLIX. Go ahead.
Bill, earlier, President Reagan was president. A couple of our friends succeeded in front of a restaurant in Germany. Reagan found out who did it, and he had Gaddafi's house burned, killing his daughter. But
I need a new headset because I can't follow that either. 828, as we mentioned, we've got Dr. Jonathan Tripp, or one of his associates, joining us in studio for just a moment. I got to mention this quickly. I referenced Boise Weekly a little earlier today. They have a story there at that publication, which I don't know if it's liberal or conservative. After all, I don't live in Boise. NAFTA and Idaho, winners and losers. And it says, Donald Trump called NAFTA the worst deal in U.S. history. How has it played out in the gem state? Well, the writer points out it destroyed the timber industry because Canadian timber was subsidized. So number one, if you live in northern Idaho, you can thank Bill Clinton. That's the husband, by the way, of the current Democrat nominee who signed that into law, if you recall. And then it goes on to say that all the way back when this was first signed, a congressman in Idaho by the name of Mike Crapo was objecting, and he voted against the treaty. And he went on to say, now he's, of course, in the U.S. Senate. This is a quote from him. We've had very difficult times with Mexico in getting them to agree to let our Idaho potatoes into their markets. Senator Crapo added that sugar, a major southern Idaho industry, has also run into significant barriers with Mexican trade officials. But then again, for some of our callers, they're pleased about that because, well, mom and dad can make a lot of money off your backs. You're up next. No, we'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a break, and we've got to get to better health with Tripp Family Medicine in just a moment. It's 8:30. Right now it's 33. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com. Also, Anthony Tompkins running for U.S. Congress against Mike Simpson on the way.